are moments in life when the heart stirs before the mind understands, when something deep within you whispers a truth that logic cannot grasp. It is in these moments that heaven speaks, not with thunder, but with the quiet persistence of signs too deliberate to ignore, a name that keeps resurfacing, a presence that lingers in your spirit, a connection that defies time, distance, or reason. You wonder if it's mere coincidence, yet the rhythm of the divine does not play random notes. Every sign, every stirring, every unshakable knowing is the echo of something greater moving beneath the surface. What if the weight on your heart is not a burden, but a revelation? What if God is speaking again and again until you finally listen? The signs are not just happening to you, they are happening for you. And if you feel these things in your heart, then perhaps the answer has been with you all along. The human heart was never designed to move aimlessly, to wander without direction, to settle for something less than divine intention. When something is sent by heaven, when a connection is being orchestrated by something far greater than your own understanding, there will be a pull. A weight, not of burden, but of certainty. A knowing that speaks louder than logic, louder than fear, louder than the distractions of the world, trying to drown out the whisper of divine alignment. You feel it, don't you? That pull you can't explain, that name that won't leave your spirit, that presence that lingers even when they are not around. No matter how much you try to push it away, it remains. Not in an obsessive, frantic way, but in a steady, undeniable rhythm. Like the tide meeting the shore, like the turning of the seasons, like the steady hand of the divine orchestrating something beyond what you can fully grasp. This is not ordinary. This is not just another fleeting infatuation, not just another passing emotion. This is something deeper, something eternal, something woven into the very fabric of who you are becoming. You see, when God is revealing someone to you, it won't always come with flashes of lightning or grand announcements. Sometimes it will come as a seed planted so subtly in the soil of your heart that you don't even recognize it at first. But over time it grows, it deepens, it takes root in places where nothing else seems to survive. You try to shake it, but it won't go. You try to ignore it, but it resurfaces. You try to convince yourself it's nothing, yet every time you lay your head on the pillow at night, it's still there, woven into your prayers, wrapped around your thoughts, settled in the quiet spaces of your soul. That's because divine alignment is not something you can manufacture. It is not something you can control. It does not bow to your timeline, nor does it conform to your comfort zone. When God is pulling two lives together, when he is intertwining destinies, he does it with such intentionality that no human hand can undo what he has spoken. But let's be real, divine connections do not always come wrapped in clarity. Sometimes they come with questions. Sometimes they come with silence. Sometimes they come in ways that challenge you, stretch you, and force you to confront things within yourself that you didn't even realize were there. Because when God is preparing you for something sacred, he will refine you before he reveals it. So if you feel that pull, if you sense that unshakable knowing deep in your spirit, do not dismiss it. Do not explain it away as mere coincidence. Do not allow fear to convince you that it is just your imagination. Because when God is speaking, he does not whisper in vain. And I know the weight of waiting, the uncertainty, the longing for clarity, it can feel overwhelming. But hear me, just because you don't understand it yet doesn't mean it's not real. Just because it hasn't fully unfolded doesn't mean it's not already written. Just because you cannot yet see the full picture doesn't mean the masterpiece isn't already taking form. What you feel in your spirit is not an accident. It is not a mistake. It is not random. It is alignment. It is divine orchestration moving in ways that are beyond your sight, but never beyond your reach. So what do? You lean in, you seek, you surrender, you lay down the need for control and allow the divine to lead. Because when something is truly meant for you, when a connection is offered by heaven, no distance, no delay, no doubt will be able to separate what God has joined in spirit long before the world catches up. This is your moment to trust. This is your moment to let go of the questions and hold on to the faith that if this is truly God's doing, then nothing will be able to stop it. So breathe, stand still, watch how it unfolds, because what's meant for you will always find its way. There are moments in life when the noise of the world cannot drown out the quiet stirrings of your soul, when something beyond human reason begins to speak, and though you may not fully understand it, you cannot deny that it is real. It moves through you like a whisper on the wind, a nudge in the deepest places of your being, an unshakable knowing that refuses to fade. But here's the challenge. Divine signs don't always come wrapped in clarity. They don't always arrive as thunderous revelations or celestial declarations. More often than not, they appear as patterns, as moments of undeniable connection, as echoes in the stillness that call your attention back to a truth you may have overlooked. And yet we hesitate, we question, we wrestle with the uncertainty of what we feel because we have been conditioned to trust only what we can see. But let me ask you, when has the greatest work of the divine ever been confined to what is visible? When has the unfolding of destiny ever fit neatly into human logic? The very foundation of faith is built on the unseen, the unspoken, the undeniable pull of something greater than ourselves. So what happens when your heart keeps circling back to the same person? When their presence lingers even in their absence? When the very mention of their name awakens something within you that defies explanation? It is not obsession. It is not coincidence. It is the weight of divine intention pressing upon your soul, refusing to let you walk away from something that has already been written in the unseen. But here's the thing, before confirmation comes clarity, and before clarity comes testing, because not every attachment is divine, not every feeling is a sign, and not every connection is meant to be pursued. So how do you know the difference? You must listen, not with your ears, but with your spirit, because when something is truly meant for you, it will not demand that you strive. It will not require you to chase or manipulate or force its unfolding. Divine alignment is not birthed in desperation, but in surrender. And yet so many of us fight the very thing that was meant to bless us. We reject what we do not understand. We resist what we cannot control. We try to silence the signs because they do not align with our plans, with our timeline, with the version of our future we had carefully constructed in our minds. But the divine does not operate according to human schedules. The one who sees the end from the beginning is never in a hurry. And when a connection is divinely orchestrated, it will come with a rhythm that does not rush, but does not relent. Have you noticed the way this person shows up in your life? Just when you need clarity, just when you begin to question, just when you think you've moved on, have you paid attention to the way they mirror parts of you that you never knew needed healing? Have you considered that the discomfort you feel is not rejection, but refinement? That what you are sensing is not simply emotion, but alignment? And yet, despite all the signs, you hesitate, not because you don't believe, but because you are afraid. Afraid that you could be wrong, afraid of misinterpreting the whispers of heaven, afraid of stepping forward only to find that you have misread the map. But let me tell you something, divine instruction does not come with a blueprint. It comes with trust. It comes with surrender. It comes with the willingness to step out even when the destination is unclear. So stop asking for another sign when the signs have already been given. Stop waiting for the confirmation to be so obvious that it requires no faith. Stop letting fear paralyze what God is trying to move into position. Because if this is truly divine, if this connection has been orchestrated by something greater than yourself, then no distance, no doubt, no delay will be able to sever what has already been established in the spirit. So trust what you feel in the depths of your soul. Lean into the signs that refuse to be ignored, and know this: when heaven speaks, it does not waste its words. What is meant for you will find you, not because you strive for it, but because it was written before you even knew to ask. There comes a moment when the weight of divine intention becomes too heavy to ignore. A moment when the signs you once brushed off as coincidence begin to form a pattern too precise to be random. A moment when your heart, no matter how much you try to silence it, continues to whisper the same name, the same feeling, the same undeniable truth that refuses to fade. This is not ordinary. This is not the work of fleeting emotion or wishful thinking. This is something deeper, something divine, something that has been set in motion long before you became aware of it. And yet, in your humanity, you hesitate. You question, you wrestle with the very thing that was sent to bring you clarity. Because divine revelation is disruptive. It interrupts your plans. It challenges your expectations. It forces you to see beyond what is convenient, beyond what is comfortable, beyond what is controllable. And that is why so many people miss it. Not because the signs weren't there, but because they were too afraid to acknowledge what they already knew in their spirit. But here's the truth. When the divine is speaking, it does not whisper in confusion. It does not lead you in circles. It does not tease your emotions without intention. If you find yourself unable to shake a particular person from your spirit, if their presence lingers in the quiet places of your heart, if every attempt to move on leads you right back to where you started, pay attention. Because this is not just about attraction. This is about alignment. This is about something bigger than the surface level emotions the world teaches you to rely on. Look beyond what you see, because divine connections are often hidden beneath the veil of process. They do not come in the way you expect, nor do they arrive on the timeline you prefer. Sometimes they show up in seasons of uncertainty when you feel the least prepared to receive them. Sometimes they manifest through separation, through delay, through the refining fire that tests your patience, your faith, and your willingness to surrender, because the divine is not just concerned with bringing you together, it is concerned with making you ready. It is not just about answering your prayers, it is about molding your character to sustain what you have been asking for. And that is why many do not recognize the very thing they have been praying for when it appears. They expect ease, but instead they find resistance. They expect clarity, but instead they find contradiction. They expect immediate confirmation, but instead they find themselves walking through a season of testing. But do you not see? This is the preparation. This is the refining. This is the divine ensuring that what is meant to last will not crumble under the weight of its purpose. Because what is being written here is not just a love story. It is a kingdom assignment. It is something that carries the weight of divine intention, something that will shift the trajectory of your life in ways you cannot yet comprehend. And so if you find yourself in a place where the signs are relentless, where your heart knows something your mind cannot fully explain, do not run from it. Do not dismiss it as emotion or coincidence. Do not allow fear to rob you of what was meant for. You instead lean in, seek discernment, not from the noise of the world, but from the quiet place where divine wisdom speaks. Because when something is truly meant for you, it will not demand that you chase it. It will not require manipulation or force. It will not be built on striving, but on surrender. And when the time is right, when the process has done its work, when the preparation has been completed, what is yours will find you. So do not fear the waiting. Do not resist the refining. And above all, do not ignore the signs that refuse to leave your heart. Because when the divine speaks, it does not waste its words. What is meant for you will not pass you by, and what is written in eternity cannot be erased by time. Stand firm, trust the process, and know this: the story being written here is far greater than you can imagine. Let go of the fear, silence the doubt, and prepare yourself, because what is meant to be will always be, and when the appointed time comes, nothing and no one will be able to stop it. There is a weight to revelation, a stirring in the spirit that refuses to be silenced. When the divine moves, it does not ask for permission. It does not wait for your convenience or your readiness. It speaks, and the soul knows. It presses upon you in moments of stillness, in the quiet whispers of the night, in the unshakable sense that something greater is unfolding beyond what the natural eye can see. You may try to rationalize it. You may tell yourself that it is simply emotion, that it is nothing more than a fleeting thought. But deep down there is something undeniable, a knowing that sits in your spirit, unmoved by logic, unshaken by circumstances. The signs have been too many, too precise, too intentional to be coincidence. The alignment too perfect to be random, and yet here you are, standing at the threshold of revelation, caught between certainty and hesitation, between faith and fear, because knowing is one thing, but stepping into what you know, that requires surrender, that requires trust, that requires you to walk by faith and not by sight. This is where so many falter, not because the signs were unclear, not because the call was uncertain, but because stepping into destiny demands courage. It requires you to release the need for control, to embrace the unknown, to trust that what has been set in motion will unfold in its appointed time. Because divine revelation is never about recognition. It is about preparation. It is about alignment. It is about ensuring that when the promise arrives, you will be ready to receive it, ready to steward it, ready to carry the weight of what it truly means. And that is why the journey is rarely easy. That is why you have faced resistance. That is why there have been delays, setbacks, moments where it felt like everything was moving in the opposite direction of what was promised. Not because the vision was wrong, but because the process was necessary. Because destiny does not come without refinement. Because what is built on divine foundation cannot be rushed by human hands. So many people abort their promise because they mistake the waiting for denial. They mistake the process for rejection. They allow fear to silence what was meant to be pursued. But hear this: delay does not mean denial. A season of silence does not mean the absence of movement. There are things being set in order that you cannot yet see, things shifting behind the veil, things aligning in the unseen realm. Do not let your impatience cause you to settle for something less than what was promised. Do not let your fear convince you that what is meant for you will not come to pass, because what has been spoken over your life cannot be erased. What has been ordained cannot be undone. And what has been set in motion by divine hands will not fail. But you must be willing to endure the process. You must be willing to trust beyond what you understand, because the fulfillment of revelation is not in the knowing. It is in the doing. It is in the obedience. It is in the willingness to step out even when you cannot yet see the full picture. That is where faith is tested. That is where character is forged. That is where preparation takes place. Not in the comfort of certainty, but in the refining fire of trust. And when the time comes, when the moment of unveiling arrives, when the process has completed its work, there will be no doubt. There will be no confusion. What is yours will be undeniable. What has been promised will be made manifest, and you will look back and see that every delay, every challenge, every moment of waiting was not wasted. It was necessary. It was preparing you. It was aligning you. It was ensuring that when the promise came, you would not just receive it, but you would be ready to walk in it. So do not grow weary. Do not allow doubt to cloud what has already been made clear. Hold on to what you know. Trust in what has been revealed. And when the moment of action comes, when the door opens, when the signs align, when the divine whispers now, do not hesitate. Do not shrink back. Step forward in faith. Step forward with boldness, because what is meant for you will not pass you by. And when divine purpose is calling, the only answer is yes. There comes a moment when the weight of revelation is no longer something you can ignore. A moment when the signs have spoken too clearly, the confirmations have echoed too loudly, and the stirring in your spirit has become too strong to dismiss. You have wrestled with the questions, asked for clarity, sought for assurance, and yet everywhere you turn, the message remains the same. But here is where the challenge begins, because revelation is not just about what you see, it is about what you do with what you see. It is one thing to recognize the divine orchestration in your life, to sense the alignment, to feel the undeniable pull of purpose. It is another thing entirely to respond, to step into it, to trust it even when everything in you is tempted to retreat into the comfort of the familiar. Because faith is not just believing that something is true. Faith is movement. Faith is action. Faith is the willingness to step beyond what makes sense to the natural mind and walk in obedience to what has been revealed in the Spirit. And yet, so many hesitate, not because they doubt the signs, not because they do not sense the call, but because stepping forward requires surrender. It requires releasing control. It requires trusting that what has been ordained will not fail. Fear whispers, what if you're wrong? Doubt says, what if you're misreading the signs? But let me ask you, what if you're right? What if this moment, this revelation, this divine alignment is not something to be analyzed to death, but something to be embraced with a heart wide open? Because the truth is, revelation is an invitation. It is not something that forces itself upon you. It is something that calls you higher. It beckons you into a greater unfolding, into a story that has already been written in eternity. The choice is yours. Will you lean into it, or will you let fear hold you back? Consider this. Every great move of purpose in Scripture began with revelation, but it was not the revelation that changed lives. It was the response to it. Abraham was called out of his homeland, but he had to walk in faith toward a promise he could not yet see. Moses stood before a burning bush, but he had to go before Pharaoh despite his own insecurities. Esther was placed in a position of influence, but she had to step forward with courage, risking everything for a purpose greater than herself. Revelation is the beginning, not the destination. And for those who recognize it but do not act upon it, it becomes a burden rather than a blessing. Because to see and not move is to carry the weight of what could have been, to live with the knowledge of a divine invitation that was left unanswered. Do not let hesitation be the thief of your destiny. Do not allow uncertainty to keep you standing at the edge of what has already been prepared for you. What is meant for you has not been hidden, it has been revealed. The question is not whether the signs are clear. The question is whether you will have the faith to follow them. But here's the beautiful thing. When you step into what has been ordained for you, you will find that everything you feared was an illusion. You will see that the provision has already been made, the way has already been prepared, and the grace you need to walk in it has already been given. You will look back and wonder why you ever doubted, why you ever hesitated, why you spent so much time questioning what was always meant to be. So this is the moment. This is the crossroads. You have been given the revelation, the confirmations, the divine alignment. Now the choice is yours. Will you stay where it is safe, Or will you walk forward in faith? Because when heaven speaks, the wise do not just listen, they respond. And those who respond will find themselves stepping into a life they never imagined, into a purpose greater than they ever dreamed, into a love that was always waiting for them on the other side of faith.